Welcome back. Hope you are fit and ready to go once again. Yesterday we did our part one of our season reviews between Williams and Toro Rosso. The bottom half of the table, you could say. Now today we are going to be continuing this, and of course talking about the next or the rest of the teams, the next five teams, the teams that finished, you could say, in the top half of the Formula One Constructors Championship. So waste not one not. Let's go straight into it and talk about Renault. Now, Renault, for me, it's been a very disappointing season, in my opinion. A brilliant 2018. Fourth place, certainly on the rise. Daniel Ricciardo transferring from Red Bull to Renault. Shock move at the time, but I think a lot of buzz was around Renault at the start of the year, don't get me wrong. And I was one of these people that predicted Renault to be getting podiums, not every single week, but certainly challenging for podiums in at least in some races and knocking on the door, like I said, for that top three position. Maybe putting a bit of pressure onto Red Bull, that kind of thing, which would have been quite good because Renault had just left. Well, Red Bull had just left Renault in 2018, and all that. That would have been amazing to see, but that never happened. Renault started off the season pretty badly. Of course, Ricciardo losing his front wing in the first race in Australia, in his home race. That wasn't the best way to go about things. And then that strange retirement in Bahrain, if you remember that, when both cars retired at more or less the same time. I'm pretty sure Charles Leclerc is actually still thanking Renault's electronics for that, because otherwise he would have been caught by Max Verstappen in the Bahrain Grand Prix. But as the season went on, it never really got any better for Renault. They had a glimmer of hope in a certain, a couple of Grand Prix. Like, for example, Canada, they were on the pace, P6 and P7 in the race. And then in Italy, that was when Italy was probably, in my opinion, the best kind of moment for Renault. That's when we all thought, oh, here we go, Renault have actually got it together, and maybe they could, at this point, be knocking on the door to finish in P4 in the Constructors' Championship, P4 and P5 for Daniel Ricciardo and Nico Hulkenberg, respectively. But Ricciardo, look, if you want to go into drivers, talking about Ricciardo, his first season at Renault has been a bit disappointing, and maybe one that nobody really expected. And now you've got some people saying, "Oh, Ricciardo's move to Renault was a bit of a joke, a bit of a mistake, you could say, because Red Bull were winning races. Renault, of course, are nowhere near. Well, really nowhere near the podium as of yet. So everyone's just kind of just jumping on the bandwagon already. And really, I think, all right, Renault had a poor 2019, but certainly 2020 should be a better year for them. They have went backwards in development, which can happen, of course. It just so happened that it happened to them, being beaten by their customer team McLaren, which for a team like Renault could be a bit embarrassing. Senior personnel leaving in the winter, and of course more to come apparently, and then probably bringing in even more senior personnel to try and have a big change around and hopefully fix what is actually going wrong behind the scenes at Renault, and like I said, try and jump on for a better 2020. But yeah, there's certainly been more negatives than positives for Renault. A bang average season, really. Qualifying, they had the moments, like I said. Certainly probably the kick in the nads, as I like to call it, the one that got away for Nico Hulkenberg. Once again, that podium slipped away from his grasp, literally slipped away underneath the tyres when he got onto that drag strip in Germany. Could have got a podium that day. Unfortunately, he didn't. Leaves Formula One, sadly, without a podium. Yeah, what do you make of that, guys? Let me know in the comment section below. But Lyle, Renault season as a whole, Daniel Ricciardo, his first season with Renault, it wasn't good, was it? It was very disappointing for him, and I'm pretty sure Ricciardo, maybe not. I don't want to say regretting, but will certainly be a bit unsure about about the future of Renault. Maybe could be thinking, what could have been happening in 2019 if I did stay with Red Bull. What's your verdict on, let's say, Ricardo's first season in yellow?
Yep. Well, I mean, firstly, it was really weird when he went because Renault
Yeah,
and Red Bull, or Red Bull and Renault, their relationship wasn't what it used to be. It's been pretty bitter for the last few years, but then in 2018 they were having, 2017, terrible in terms of reliability. Max Verstappen, the other side of the garage, he retired. I think it was on almost half the race he actually did in that season. Something like that. And
yeah,
the problems that he was having. I remember it was actually after Hungary. He made that when they had problems. I think Ricciardo had problems with his engine, but then Max actually retired with engine problems, and the Renault relationship was on an all-time low. And then it was announced that he's going to Renault, so it was a little bit strange. And I don't think really anyone kind of knew why. He didn't want to. He didn't want to continue with Honda. Sorry, he didn't want to go to Honda even. He didn't want to continue with Red Bull in that kind of way. That okay, he's been with the team for a long time. He wanted a new challenge, and he wasn't winning championships at Red Bull. He was, he was the second driver behind Verstappen, and of course, no one wants that. It's become more apparent, especially when, as I said, when Netflix made their documentary, that his relationship with Verstappen was a little bit kind of. There was a lot more boiling underneath that, that nice smile that he has. It was, it wasn't just happy smiles at Red Bull and all that, that PR stuff that they do. It was quite, it was bitter. It wasn't a Weber Vettel, but it was, it wasn't the best. Also with the team as well, and he just wanted a different challenge. Obviously, he'd been in the part of the Red Bull program, I think it was since he was 15, been through Toro Rosso as well, and a big link to, basically everything Red Bull. He wanted a chance, he wanted to do something that it was his chance. And of course, he wanted to do something where it's kind of labelled the Lewis Hamilton move, when he went from McLaren to Mercedes, turned a midfield team into an amazing team, and obviously what they are now. Sebastian Vettel did it with Ferrari, or at least tried to. It went a bit better, of course, because Ferrari. And then Ricciardo did it with Renault, which again, strong team. I mean, obviously the last kind of, stint they did in Formula 1, realistically only a few years ago, when they're obviously taking out the bits where they were out of Formula 1, they'd just won 2 back-to-back World Championships with Fernando Alonso. So they are a good team, and they have got that pedigree. And of course they are a works team. The Renault engine is theirs, instead of, for example, when Red Bull were just sharing it. So it was a good chance for Daniel Ricciardo. It was a good feat. He was friends with Nico. He was friends with some of the management in Renault. It was just a different challenge for him, a new chapter. So he was happy. In terms of his personal evolution, I think it's made him better, because this season he's been even more smiley, if you can believe that. Even more smiley, even more pumped, even happier around the grid. Whatever the car does, he's happy to kind of accept it, but with the knowledge that 2020 is going to be that year when he's challenging for podiums, and the car is good enough to get on the podium. Because this year, he hasn't got on the podium. Nico, I'll get on him in a bit, but Daniel's never really been kicking himself that he hasn't got a podium with Renault this year. With that belief, as I've just said there, what he said in press conferences is that he's going to get on the podium next year. So that being said, Jordan, I feel like this year for him has been good. He's worked out what he wants in the team. He's become the team leader, and I've said this before when we've been talking about Nico. He's become the team leader. Almost in the first few races, it was apparent that Daniel had more of a support. He was a fresher driver. I think he's younger than Nico. Yeah, he probably is. He was a fresher driver. Obviously, he's just come from a top team, Red Bull, so he has podiums and race wins and stuff like that, more experience. He was the team leader, and he became that, quite fast. Cyril really, on Daniel's side. Obviously, he was great for PR as well. Everyone was looking at up down the grid, even, excited that he was there. But so his evolution, what he's done for the team, has been great. And again, he's just doing that for 2020. But in terms of what the car's done, it hasn't been great. It hasn't been standout. I mean, it's been good. He's had some good finishes. I think Monza was a good finish, double points. Canada as well in qualifying. I think Daniel got P4, which was a great qualifying for him. So it's been there. It's been good, but as I say, not what he wants. But as I've just said, with Daniel Ricciardo, Jordan, it's basically been for 2020. He wants a car in 2020 that's good. He wants a solid year at the team. Again, a little bit like Lewis Hamilton in 2013. He wants a year at the team just to kind of find out how they work. I feel like next year could be where we see that smile turn into a frown. I feel like next year might not be a good year for Daniel Ricciardo if this keeps going. But as I say, I mean, that's all he's wishing on. He's on a prayer, and he's hoping that next year will be good. But I think that his move this year has been, I think it's been good. It's not, obviously, of course, it's, staying at Red Bull would have been better. But again, as I said yesterday about the hindsight, with, who's talking about there? It was Toro Rosso. Hindsight's a funny thing, but you can't say that you have it. So he would not have known that Honda were going to be good. He thought that Honda were bad. But also, as I said, it was just a personal thing. He wanted to move teams. He wanted a new challenge. And obviously for his challenge, John, from what he wanted, I'd say that was good, because he definitely got that. He's had some trouble in races, and obviously, as you said there, starting his home race where he lost his front wing, even after that, which was about 3 seconds into the 2019 season, and he was like, this is going to be an uphill struggle for Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah, I think coming into the season, I think expectations were quite exciting. He broke away from Red Bull to try and become a team leader, because he knew that the team was building. Well, Red Bull were building the team around Max, and Daniel didn't want to be a part of that. So of course, moving on to Renault was like I said, like it was a brand new challenge, new chapter in Ricardo's like Formula One career, and certainly there was could have been better, and it should have been better for Renault. I think Renault themselves, the drivers aren't to blame. I think it's more down to the car. Personally, the car was just at times unreliable. Like I said, that weird double retirement in Bahrain, and of course the probably the biggest thing out of the season, negative wise, is that double disqualification in Japan, which was quite embarrassing for the team. Let's say, and this brake bias thing that apparently was being adjusted by itself, and that's not allowed. Think Racing Point made the protest, investigated it, found guilty, disqualified from that race, and again that's probably what cost them probably what cost them, you could say, the challenge for fourth place in that race, because they lost all them points that they scored, and they actually finished both in the points. I think Ricard was sixth and Hulkenberg was ninth, I believe, in Japan, and of course both got disqualified. So yeah, shame for that. So yeah, I think Ricardo will certainly assessing for what he's done right, wrong this season, go forward, and like I said, improve for 2020. How good will it be? Well, nobody knows as of this point. Nico Hulkenberg, leaving Formula One without podium. Do you remember Nico Hulkenberg? No? Well, yeah, that's what I predicted, really. Hulkenberg, everyone was sad that he's leaving the sport. Yeah, fair enough, he hasn't got a contract for next season. Are you over it? I'm over it. I'm not bothered, really, as the Hulkenberg. I like him as a driver, but we'll get over it, no problem. Ocon has already driven the Renault in the tyre test in Abu Dhabi, settling into the team very nicely, going into Christmas, coming into the new year, maybe back at the factory in January, get himself prepared, ready, get rid of that Christmas turkey that he had, unless he's vegan, and then go forth into pre-season testing. So quite excited to see what the future holds for, of course, Esteban Ocon. But no, Nico Hulkenberg, 14th place in the standings. Not where he wanted to be, not where anyone expected Nico Hulkenberg to be. For me, he is a top 10 driver, kind of that he has that consistency, but of course the car let him down. Like I said, the car, it wasn't really the driver's fault, more down towards the car. Ricardo beat Hulkenberg fair and square, which a lot of people thought would happen, but maybe they thought the battle would have been a lot closer. But that's how it is. So Lyle Hulkenberg, yeah, not the season he wanted to, of course, leaving Formula One. Do you think it was fair that he did leave Formula One, or do you think he should have been given another chance at Renault, despite having quite a poor season, you could say?
Well, the thing is, I mean, with Nico Hulkenberg, the season started with another kind of, not what we're thinking right now. Nico was going to be in Formula One. He was still a driver, and it's kind of like this year's going to be my year, or next year's going to be my year. Nico has to stick around, and because when Nico was in Formula One, like at the start of the year, for example, you actually thought about how long he's been in Formula One. You're like, oh my god, like, and so next year would have been 10 years. This was 10 season. It would have been 10 years next year. In his 11th season, since he got basically the only thing that he's got in Formula 1, which obviously is the pole position with Williams' debut season in Sao Paulo, which obviously was absolutely incredible as well. So Nico Hulkenberg started the season as probably the leader of Renault, the man who had all that experience, and the man who was chasing what obviously has eluded him for so long. He's still a very skilled driver. Obviously, you remember Le Mans 2015, I think it was. He won with Porsche. Really great drive.
Yeah,
showed the
brilliant.
normal Nico, I would say, because again, we don't really know what other Nico's like in other categories. For example, like IndyCar was on the table. He's now picked up that card again, so we're waiting to see what's happening. So I guess Nico as an athlete is good, and that's more like Nico the athlete. I was excited when I saw Le Mans WEC. He can drive. He's still in it. He's still a good athlete. It just shows that Formula One, he isn't adapting, or he hasn't adapted. He hasn't been adapting over these 10 years, these 10 seasons, to Formula One. And obviously, for example, in 2015, to go from Le Mans first place to, like, I don't know, 10th place the next race and stuff like that must have been a bit weird. Towards the end of the season, though, the middle of the season, when the rumours started coming that he was going to get replaced, and then obviously that's when people started thinking exactly what we are thinking right now. Oh, he's been in for so long, 10 seasons, and he's got absolutely nothing. I think it's one fastest lap. He could have got that win in Rio, in Sao Paulo 2012 in Force India, but we can't talk about what happened, what nearly happened, or that pole position. That's when that all started to creep in. And then as soon as Esteban Ocon gets signed by Renault, which was a great decision, because as you said, Jordan, Esteban Ocon, great driver, Racing Point or Force India, really showed his cards. Again with Man, I think he had 27 consecutive point scoring, consecutive finishes for Man. Obviously, you could say that's mainly the team, but still a great driver. Really excited to have him back. Obviously, he has really glued into this team, even just in the few days of Abu Dhabi testing. But as soon as Esteban was signed, Nico's performances started going downhill. Now he had, I think it was Belgium and Italy, Belgium, Italy, and Singapore, so 3 on the bounce point scoring finishes. Then after that, out of Q2, out of Q3, outside the points. Obviously, that disqualification in Japan. Thank you. And of course, obviously going off for the first part of the season, which is what Jordan just mentioned, where he did lose what could have been a podium in Hockenheim. Again, obviously a home driver as well, obviously in Nico. Yeah. So when the dynamic changed to Esteban replacing him, the results started falling off. And as you said there, Jordan, now we're going to forget about Nico. I'm sorry, it might have been a good career, 10 seasons. He's been with a few good teams, Sauber, Force India, and obviously now Renault. He has helped, and he is a Le Mans, he is a WEC winner, but no podium. And that's what we remember in Formula 1. We remember the results. When you're gone, we remember what was written down on a piece of paper. And Nico doesn't have anything. So I'm sorry, Nico. You were a good driver. You were a great athlete. From example, what I saw in WEC, as I say, that was probably our only kind of inclination, that you are a good athlete, versatile, and you are a good driver. But in Formula 1, you haven't been able to glue. And I'm not surprised that he's not in Formula 1, Jordan, anymore. But I do wish him the best. We do wish him the best. And I do hope that he is in another form of motorsport next year, whether that be WEC, which, to be honest, I don't know why he's not considering. He's driven WEC Porsche before. He's won Le Mans. That is just pretty stupid out in my mind. And if he does go to IndyCar, of course he hasn't won the Monaco Grand Prix, so he can't get the Triple Crown. But it's kind of in that direction, isn't it? Graham Hill did that. Obviously, Fernando Alonso did that. Fernando Alonso's doing that. As I just said there, Nico can't get the Triple Crown, but it's kind of going in the right direction. And I do think that IndyCar would be a good fit for any form of motorsport, would be good for the German. Anyways, moving on to the next team now, which really standout team, really happy. You will smile, and of course Jordan is probably going ecstatic and can't wait to talk about them. And that, of course, is 4th place finishes McLaren. Now, McLaren's season, amazing, absolutely incredible. I said to Jordan before, and I said, if you said to me that McLaren were going to have a top 10 finish this year, or top 10 finishes in a race, a few, you'd think, yeah, maybe 1 or 2, especially with the drivers that they have, maybe 1 or 2, but nothing stand out. McLaren have been on such a war, it's been quite upsetting to be a McLaren fan, as case in point, just look at the other screen. McLaren rolled into this year with 2 brand new drivers, Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris, who was 19 years old. 19, absolutely incredible. How did Formula 1 get so young? Carlos Sainz, of course, proving himself at places like Toro Rosso, and of course going to Renault for that short spell. Lando Norris, really, really skilled. And what could he do in this car? Again, home driver as well, obviously McLaren being British and Lando being British. Double retirement for Carlos Sainz, started out in Australia, not very good, but the results started to pick up. And I would say one of the standout races for me, for McLaren, was Azerbaijan. I think it was 5th and 6th or 6th and 7th that they both got really strong, both into Q3 as well. That's when you started to kind of prick up your ears and say, these drivers are actually good, and I'm really looking forward to what they can do. Lando Norris, I think, was my driver of the day. I think it was in Azerbaijan, or one of the driver of the days. Pretty impressive. Just kept impressing all through the year. Again, it wasn't just their attitude on track. Sorry, it wasn't just their driving on track. It was also the attitude of the drivers off the track and also on the track. Obviously, as I just said there, 2 young drivers. Lando only being 19, turned 20. I think it was either before or around the US Grand Prix. Again, an amazing race by him there, 5th place. Now, these drivers, very young, I should say very young, Carlos, not very young, but, just fresh, new and fresh, a change from Stoffel and Fernando, and definitely what McLaren needed. Also, their attitude off the track as well, they were talking to the media, they were very funny. Lando was and he still is a cut above. He is the next generation of drivers. Again, we talked about him in our last episode, which is about, 2 weeks ago, which is about our esports. We said about Lando being, online, he's on esports, he's just a joker, but in a funny way, a joker in a good way. He promotes Formula 1 for the youth, and he's just a great character, something that I would say we've never really had in Formula 1 before. Also Carlos, obviously yes, a few years older, but their relationship is just like nothing we've ever seen before. Yes, you could say that Lewis and Nico started out with a bit of push and shove and fun. Lewis and Jensen had a good relationship. Who else? Maybe Daniel and Max, but nobody, I would say, has ever had a Formula One relationship like Carlos and Lando. It's just been absolutely insane. I mean, like, they are just jokers. That's all they are. They drive fast. They have good reactions and they have an amazing talent for Formula One. But at the end of the day, they are just two young lads who just enjoy having fun. And again, it's been the attitude of the team as well. Obviously, Andreas Seidel came in. Zach Brown, who was a team principal, stood back. I think he's now an acting director of the team. Again, they've just got a new attitude. They've got a lot of British people on board as well. Obviously, British team based out of Woking. Just everything about their attitude has been amazing. And of course, leading up to their best part of the season, which of course was that third place by Carlos Sainz in Brazil. Now, Carlos never got to stand on the podium in live time in front of the fans, obviously when Pierre and Max also were. But of course, he got to stand afterwards and have an amazing party with his team. And again, like I was just saying about the attitude of the team, I think again when Will Buxton, when we found out that Lewis had the penalty, it was on Will Buxton's not beyond the grid. What do you call it? What's it called? Paddock pass. And again, all the team were just jumping around, and that's when he knew that they'd got it. So they've been a party team, but in a good way. Jokers, but in a good way, a productive, and of course the result have spoken for themselves. I mean, 145 points, their best season since 2014, and of course they've broken the spell of podiums. Kev Magnussen, 2014 Australia was the last podium McLaren had. They waited 2,072 days to get their next, which was Carlos Sainz in Sao Paulo. It's been insane their year. It really, really has. Two guys in contention for Driver of the Year. One maybe more so than the other. Obviously, speaking of that, of course, our voting is still open for Fans' Choice Driver of the Year, so please go and vote for them. Go and vote on that. I've said that now because of two drivers in this team, very high up, very good chances of winning. So, Jordan, I mean, let's start with... It's hard to say with you. I mean, you probably want to yap on about them both. Let's start with Carlos, all right? Carlos Sainz. Guy comes to the team. I mean, he's been the anchor. They've both kind of shared relationships, and I wouldn't say there was a number one or a number two driver, but Carlos is, he's taken McLaren and changed it for the better this year. I mean, how has his season progressed and turned him from just an okay driver to a one that is going to be a massive star in the future, both for himself and of course for the team from Woking.
Carlos Sainz came into McLaren at the start of the year. I think it was a bit of a risk because McLaren had a really poor end to the 2018 season, and Carlos was still trying to find his home, if you could say. He was rumoured to be going to Red Bull. That never happened. Loaned out to Renault, which looked a bit strange at the time. Again, was no guarantee he was going to be there in the future. And in a way, it looked like Carlos Sainz's F1 future was in doubt. So nobody really knew what was going to happen. Went in McLaren, like I said, and it's done him the world of good. It started off quite badly. I don't think, well, I wouldn't say badly, but not the way he was expected to, let's say. Pretty much Carlos Sainz's car kind of started the season the way it ended in 2018, quite unreliable and not as quick. But Carlos Sainz got it together, did some brilliant drives, and like I said, that podium was just incredible from 20th to P3. Well, P4 then promoted to P3 because Lewis Hamilton, of course, got that 5-second penalty and he was demoted. And I think he certainly put his authority out there that he is a good driver, and if there's any teams out there who need a driver quickly, they don't want an up and coming youngster, and they just really they quickly want to step up a young-ish driver, you could say, who is quick and consistent. I think Carlos Sainz is definitely your man. I think rumours going back to Red Bull, unlikely. I think he is settled at McLaren. I think McLaren going forward looking very good, very promising, very juicy, as I like to say. And I think Carlos Sainz will be the main man at the team. Norris, of course, linked with moves away, as he is going to be probably now until the end of his days. But nevertheless, I think Lando has had a really good rookie year in Formula One. When he signed, I was a bit iffy at that choice. I thought, well, okay, he's a good driver, but is he too young? Is he too all right? It worked out with Verstappen. Will it work out again that he is this young? Stroll, when he got drafted in, he was 18 years old. It didn't. it didn't quite work then, and in a way it kind of did but didn't. So I was a bit like I didn't know coming into this season, but certainly leaving the season on a high, and very very proud to be a McLaren fan. Had some, I mean, Lando Norris is such a breath of fresh air in Formula One. He really really is. I would recommend going to see the video that he did with George Russell and Alex Albon that came out quite recently when they're trying to persuade each other who should be driver of the year. I mean, rookie of the year. And Norris's video isn't really that. It's not that good, but it's still pretty funny. It is like Lando Norris esque. Of course, being a big Valentino Rossi fan, you having that stupid cap on, and just having that relationship with Carlos Sainz. It makes it healthy. Having two drivers who get along just makes everything flow much better within a team. And I'm hoping that can transition on into next season, where pushing forward, McLaren hopefully can be scoring some more points and hopefully some more podiums. But I was optimistic with Renault in 2018 into 2019, so I'm not going to jump the gun just yet on McLaren for 2019 into 2020, thinking that McLaren's now going to be that team that's going to knock on the door for top three. Let's see how it goes first. Let's see, what the future holds. Lando Norris, we both like him. He's a very likable character. Breath of fresh air, like I said. He's such a nice guy, isn't he? And he is a good driver. Reliability, it did let him down a bit. He could have got some more points. Of course, the car let him down. Engine failure. It's broken. In Belgium, could have got some really good points there. The suspension melted in Canada, and and a handful of others where the engine just let him down, unfortunately. But nevertheless, he's had a solid first year into Formula One, hasn't he? And do you think he's got a good future at McLaren?
I do, yeah. I think he's a really good I think he's a really good guy to have at McLaren. British, really worked well in the team, really worked well with Carlos. Which actually might be something for the future that they might look at. Like if Carlos moves on, for example with Kimi and Seb, Sebastian actually was looking forward to having Kimi as a teammate, and it might work like that. Really, it might look like Lando wants to go with where Carlos is because he enjoyed having him as a teammate. But it's also just the new kind of spin that he's had on it. Like Formula One was so serious, a few years ago. Sebastian Vettel would never be seen doing anything like Lando does. Like he's put stupid videos online. Obviously, he's done loads of memes, things like that. Obviously, he's played Verstappen, online and things like that. The funny radio messages. It showed the lighter side. Not just Lando, as well, obviously Carlos, with the smooth operator and stuff like that. It's just more of a light side. He's got a light side to him. He's got a funny side, and of course, Formula One is it's a proper intense sport and serious. But Lando Norris changes that. He's not an amazing driver. He's not. This hasn't been a standout year for him. I wouldn't say really it's a standout year. I would just say it's a good progressive year. He is the future. That's what people say, and I do think that he's got a good season with McLaren. It hasn't been amazing, but and obviously he hasn't been able to keep up with Carlos. But considering his age as well, obviously teenager on the grid until the United States, his birthday race, you could say, obviously yes, which is where he got one of the best qualifying. He got P1 in Q1, which hasn't happened since, I think it was it Britain 2017 where Fernando Alonso or something like that. I think it was 1 year when Fernando Alonso in the McLaren in the rain. I think it was 2017. Just things like that.
Q1, P1.
Just things like that really, really help. And definitely, he is the future. And he's definitely got a great future with McLaren. And they all love him as well. I don't think there's a single person on that team who don't love to have Lando Norris. Of course, the British fans, and everybody likes him. He is if Verstappen, for example, is, because obviously he's still a young guy, 22. If Verstappen is a little bit too serious for you, if he's more pedal to the metal, just gets on driving, no kind of funny, young adult kind of attitude, and obviously Charles Leclerc again is going from this kind of guy, this funny guy, to serious like Verstappen is, then at least that Lando Norris is a serious guy when it comes on the track, but then he will be show his lighter side. So definitely got a good future, Jordan, and it's been a good progressive season for him.
Yeah, very excited to see Lando Norris coming back in 2020. Right, serious stuff time now, guys. The top three. Ooh. Of course, kicking off with the team that finished in third place, Red Bull. Red Bull Racing, right, coming into 2019 with the Honda engine. Now, if I told you that in 2017, you would have been laughing at, you'd been like, Jordan, that's just ridiculous. What the hell are you on about? Like, that's never going to happen. Well, it did. the relationship with Renault broke down completely last season, it involving not one but two people leaving Red Bull and going out and just staying in Enstone, and one actually leaving Milton Keynes to go to, of course, Enstone, the Renault factory, of course, Daniel Ricciardo. So Red Bull had two promising drivers, you could say. Well, of course, one really good, Max Verstappen, had a really good end to 2018, despite having a very shocking inconsistent start, because of course that was down to the Renault engine. He ended the season on a high, winning two races, I think, at the end of 2018. And then 2019 gets on the podium first time around in Australia. Brilliant. But of course the Mercedes domination just kind of took the hope for Verstappen, and everyone was like, oh, can Red Bull still challenge for race victories? And in actual fact, it was Max Verstappen that stopped the whole Mercedes winning domination in Austria. And that's probably a brilliant drive in a brilliant race. I would say that's probably the first, one of the first classic races you could say of 2019, because we had that awful race in France. It was so boring. It was dreadful. I don't want to talk about it. And then Austria, you're thinking, oh, here we go again. Austria, what's it going to throw up? A really good race, certainly. Max Verstappen got away very badly, if you remember, down to 7th place by lap 1, and that was when Lando Norris, on a quick one, actually going back to what we were talking about before, had a good scrap with Lewis Hamilton. So go on, son. Definitely on the edge of my seat that day. But Max Verstappen chasing down Charles Leclerc, won the Grand Prix, got his elbows out, fair and square. That's an argument for another day. Won that Grand Prix, and I think up to this point, he was on such a really good run of finishing no lower than 5th place in, I think it was up to the Belgian Grand Prix in 2018, I believe. So that run was incredible, very consistent from Max Verstappen, and of course, stamping his authority in Formula One, saying that, right, okay, this is a mature Max Verstappen, because everyone had been questioning him, having there. Is Verstappen really this good? Can he keep it up in a championship contest? What is Verstappen really the bee's knees? Is Verstappen is everything that we are all saying he is going to be? And Verstappen kind of shuts him down was wrong, but there were still people who, of course, didn't. Of course, were still on the Max Verstappen. He's never going to be world champion bandwagon. But on the other end of on the other side of the garage, rather, it was not looking as healthy. Pierre Gasly struggled massively in the first half of 2019. Crashed a couple of times in pre-season testing. All right, fair enough. P17, I think, or P16 in qualifying in Australia. Right, okay. Still massively over his teammate as the season progressed on, and was even lapped in that Grand Prix I was on about before, the Austrian Grand Prix. He was lapped by his teammate. Wow, it was just awful. And of course, there was the whole thing of, is Gasly going to be demoted? What's going to happen with Pierre Gasly? I think Silverstone, that was probably his best weekend. Of course, if you remember, Lyle, he got P1 in FP1.
Oh, yes.
When we were there, of course, we're thinking, oh, here we go, Gasly's back. Or this is the all right. Gasly's actually going to find some form. Silverstone was probably the best weekend he got out of Red Bull. It never got any better. Red Bull saying, we're not going to replace him. He's going to be here to the end of the season. And then about a day later, or 2 days later, Helmut Marko confirms Albon will be replacing Pierre Gasly at Red Bull for the remainder of 2019. Typical Helmut Marko way. And of course, Gasly back down to Toro Rosso. Shame. Like I said, I do stick by. He should have been given at the time. He shouldn't have been given the rest of the season. I do still think they should have given him the season, but still, of course, brought in Albon for the remainder of 2019. Albon has proved a very, he's done a solid job since he came into the team, being on par with, well, not so much on par with Verstappen, but still scoring some consistent points. I think he scored in every single round bar one since he joined Red Bull. That of course was Brazil, but nevertheless, I think Red Bull have had a really good, solid foundation year. 3rd place, 417 points this year in the constructors' standings. So Lyle, your team, of course, Red Bull. How would you? What's your overall verdict on the team? And of course, what was your thoughts on Pierre Gasly? Do you think that they should have given him the season, or do you think that, all right, yeah, it's still to this day was the correct choice because of course it wasn't working out, and of course the main guy Max Verstappen, he's had a solid year, hasn't he?
Well, start with Verstappen. Verstappen part one, Verstappen in the first part of the season. Now he was becoming quite consistent on the podium. Obviously, the Mercedes 1-2, 6-1-2s was quite ridiculous. He was becoming quite consistent, which was good for points, but it wasn't good for Max. He needed those results. Then, of course, Austria came along, which is absolutely amazing. I remember, just a quickly kind of a tangent, I didn't watch that race live. And I watched that race at the top of the hill, which I was watching I was down in Yorkshire, so I was working on the coast. And I went to the top of the hill where I got signal, and I watched the start of the race. Charles Leclerc was leading the race, he got pole position, so I even wrote a text to Jordan, which was kind of when we reviewed the race, for the person that didn't watch the race. And then it was read out in the episode, and I read, Charles Leclerc, amazing win, obviously again his first win, since he was denied that race win in Bahrain. Then obviously the tables turned, which was Max Verstappen. I didn't see it, but it was an amazing race when I watched the highlights for sure. And we also need that, as Jordan said, after a terrible race in Paul Ricard, which again, Jordan, I watched the race highlights once, but I've never watched it again, because why would I do that? What a boring race. And if anything, out of all the races that we've had this year, you could actually say that we've had 20 thrilling races and one pretty boring, terrible race, which was Paul Ricard. No offence to anyone that went to France Grand Prix, I'm sure that Le Castellet is a lovely place. So Verstappen, incredible, really great season from him, the part one even. Part two, really still stand out, but of course the Ferraris got more challenging. For Verstappen not to keep up with the Ferraris, fair enough. Red Bull are a best of the rest team, and that's the thing. That's kind of the good thing about Red Bull, is that we can, whatever we do, we can challenge the Ferraris, and it'll be great. But nobody expects us to be up there. For example, like when we get on a Ferrari in a little bit, but Ferrari have that stigma that if they fall to, let's say, third place, they're done for. They have to be in first place, or at least second with a great challenge. They can't fall any lower. But Red Bull don't actually have to be there yet, if that makes sense. They can challenge, which is amazing, but they don't have to be there. They are still a best of the rest kind of team. So that's kind of good. And when you said about Pierre Gasly, Jordan, Red Bull were landlocked where they were in the constructors. Obviously, we couldn't move in terms of where the points were, so we couldn't fall down to fourth place and we couldn't go up to second. We were stuck. And I remember a lot of people saying that's the reason why Pierre Gasly should have been kept. The fact is that, yes, he hasn't been given the chance. I mean, nobody's really, very few people have gone into a team and excelled that quickly. And I know that he should have, got out of all of his wars in Toro Rosso and gotten in an amazing driver. If you want to catch up to a high-speed train, you don't go jogging along. You have to be at their speed. And to say that they should have expected Pierre Gasly to be at the level of Max Verstappen as soon as he got into the team in Australia, that's a little bit harsh. And again, they did that trading places again. After Hungary, obviously in the summer break, very unfair, not very good from them. After Pierre Gasly had a good finish in Britain, see again, still pretty strong. Just wasn't right. It was not right. He was still getting some good results for Red Bull, and he was still pulling them along. But Verstappen is the number one driver. Verstappen's the one that gets the points. Verstappen's the one that gets the podiums. And Verstappen's the one that wins races, not. Well, I mean, for Pierre Gasly not to be like that in the first few races, I don't know what Red Bull were thinking of. And yes, for him to get replaced wasn't great, but of course the man who they replaced him with, Alexander Albon, firstly, Jordan, after this loads in the episode, but hindsight, you can't say they knew. I said that about Toro Rosso. They can't. I said this about Daniel Ricciardo at Renault. They can't say that we knew that Alexander Albon was going to be a better driver than Pierre Gasly. Yes, he was doing well at Toro Rosso. They also had another guy at Toro Rosso who was also proving himself, obviously on the back foot, coming back after a woeful, after 2 years ago when he went for the trading place Malarkey himself, obviously in Russian driver Daniel Kvyat. So it was a kind of a weird decision. And they put Alexander Albon in that team. And yes, now we can look back and say that he's done amazing, because he has, but at that point he hadn't. It didn't make sense to Jordan. So no, I expected them to keep Pierre Gasly. I agree with you completely. I agree that he should have had the rest of the season. Max, incredible season. Nothing at fault really. Again, like I said with Red Bull, that's a good thing about Max Verstappen. If he does okay, that's okay. If he does amazing, that's amazing. You know what I mean? Like Max Verstappen can't really fall from dominance. He's always got that kind of that stigma, that support. But yeah, Pierre Gasly should have had the rest of the season. But the man that he replaced him with obviously was really great. Now we look back and we think that has been really good for him. And two confirmed drivers for next year is we are looking like a really strong season for Red Bull in 2020.
Yeah, I think for me, I think Albon, came in. He knew what the job was. He knew what the job in hand was. It was just really, like, not so much be on par with Verstappen. I think again, like what you said before, Lau, that was a bit unfair. It was like Verstappen is a really, really good driver, and to have someone say, right, okay, you're gonna have to be on pace with Verstappen. That's like I don't know, Russell going into Mercedes and going, right, you're gonna have to be on pace with Lewis Hamilton. That's a big ask because let's face it, whether you like him or not, he is a quick driver. I don't care what people say, he is quick. And for someone to try and be on the same pace as Max, it's going to be quite hard.
Sorry. I mean, he even proved himself when he got to that stage. Remember Brendan Hartley was also his teammate. Brendan could have gone to that team. Daniel Kvyat could have also gone back to the team. Of course, you can't say Pierre getting into the team is amazing, and that's why he's done it. Like he's landlocked. He's got tenure at Red Bull. He can't leave, but he did well enough to get into the team. So again, if you were Helmut Marko, why would you then say he's not good enough to retain at the team after 11 or 12 races, 11 races, whatever? Why would you then say he's not good enough if you were the one who signed him and retained him for even that long? Because if you remember, trading places in 2016 between Kvyat and Verstappen happened after round 4, which was, that's not a break. That's right in the middle of the season.
I still don't get that to this day. Because like I always say, why didn't they just sign Verstappen at the start of 15, at the start of 16, rather than waiting 4 races? That didn't make any sense to me.
After
whatsoever.
Kvyat also got a third place in China, which obviously is very, very much forgotten. When I talk about this, I always have to keep bringing it up because people keep forgetting about that, which I'm like, no, Kvyat, I agree with you. I think that's 2 podiums. No, that's 3 he had. 2 with Red Bull, and obviously, of course, that amazing one with Toro Rosso. But, so, he had podium, and he had a podium before his teammate Ricardo and was on the board and higher. He was higher up in the constructors. Jordan, I'm so still annoyed about that trading place as Mark 1.
I think we should just come back off topic because I think we're going to end up starting another trading places 2.5 debate. I think, just calm down, deep breaths, come on. It's nearly Christmas, deep breaths. All right, I do need to do this from time to time, guys, by the way. And you just calm down, come on, Al. You know what to do now. In,
I've got it.
And out. In, lovely. I mean, like, I think, Albon is still off the pace of Max Verstappen. I know that he's consistently scoring the points, but he's still like 7 or 8 tenths off the pace, which is, I mean, okay, maybe that's a bit too far for some people's liking, but still scoring the points, like, all right, at one stage, Albon scored more points than Max, but that was only because Max had, some bad races, and of course he had that incident in Belgium, and that one in Italy when he had again 2 first corner incidents. So, and then of course Gasly might have not picked up as many points as what Albon would have, but I always said there was probably no pressure on Albon because like the worst case scenario, he goes back to Toro Rosso. And if Albon doesn't deliver, which I thought he wouldn't have, because I thought, well, again, coming at Red Bull, he's been in F1 for half a season, and Gaz has been in for a full season and a little bit in 2017, and he hasn't, and he's out the door. So why are you giving this guy a chance? It was really confusing. But 2020 is a massive year for Alex Albon, especially. Max, all right. World Championship, what's he going to do? I think he's probably got his future mapped out, I would say, more or less about now, perhaps. Or even, if not, it will be quite close because 2021, they need to sort the contracts out ASAP. Get secured for 2021, and hopefully that, depends on what happens in the future, where, whichever team they're going to be at. But Albon, the pressure starts from next season. Let's see how he deals with it. And if he doesn't get off the season well, and he doesn't start scoring points, he doesn't, he does what Pierre Gasly did. What did they do then? Red Bull are in a bit of a mess. And again, if he starts off the season bad, I hope they do give Albon the full season, because like I said, should have given Gasly the full season. Nothing to gain, nothing to lose. He might have improved, might have found his form in the second half of the season, but again, we'll never know. Lyle, what's your Red Bulls, should they be now? Okay, they've secured third with Honda, which is good. I think that's probably the minimum requirement, you could say, because nobody knew how good Honda were going to be with Red Bull. Certainly proving, that it's been
Yeah.
worthwhile. So do you think next season should be the right? Okay, guys, let's go for P2, or even go one better, or do you think that they should stay in third place, or try do the same again for 2020, but then in 2021 go for broke, try and go for the
Well, we've
championship?
got. I mean,
What do you think their target should be for next
yeah. Well, I
season?
mean, there's been loads of talk about Red Bull. When are they going to get back to 4 and 4? When are they going to get back to the glory days of Sebastian Vettel and stuff? But of course, times have changed. Teams have caught up. Verstappen world champion. That's been on the cards for a long time, and really the first kind of clue was he could go for it next year. He's got a very good chance for it in 2021, and of course, where is he going to go? Most likely the fastest kind of accelerating driver in Formula One. And of course, as you said, Jordan, the bandwagoners who say Max is not going to win a world championship are the ones who are fighting the ones who say he is going to win a world championship. And that, of course, is why Verstappen videos get viewed the most on YouTube, and that's why he is such a hotly rated driver at the moment. I think Honda have had a great season this year. I mean, obviously when they won in Austria, Max took them up on the podium, pointing to the Honda badge on his race suit. Obviously, most of the Japanese guys who had worked even in Ayrton Senna's days and Ron Dennis and Ayrton Senna were there. Well, actually, the main guy he was there, with Ayrton Senna in Suzuka '89, I think it was, or 1990, and he was just bawling his eyes out. Again, same with in Sao Paulo, even more special because, of course, Pierre Gasly, who we've just talked about, is the one who was demoted, who was the one who should have stayed the season, but the man who went back to Toro Rosso, also using a Honda engine, the second year of using a Honda engine at that team, got second place. Verstappen, a Honda engine, won. So an incredible weekend for Honda that. So they've had an amazing season, in the one where Fernando Alonso's probably sitting back in his house in Spain or the USA, scratching his head going, what went so badly for me? Why did I have such a problem with Honda? But I'm thinking that they've got more of a progressive chance. Next year, of course, Mercedes are going to be on it, Ferrari, again, still on it. More pressure, though, on them. I think the main battle for Red Bull is going to be again with Ferrari, and again the same thing. And I mean, third place probably, because again Ferrari look like they're going to be strong enough to get second place. I mean, Sebastian Vettel, again another bad season from him, so he will need to step up his game. Charles Leclerc has got a massive boost from this year, most highest pole positions, beating Lewis Hamilton. Actually, I think the only thing that Lewis has actually been beaten on in terms of records this year. But just much better than Red Bull. And I mean, when you look at the points, again, still, I think it's 93 or something like that on the top of my head. That's not 417 to 504. Maybe they can get closer. If they got closer to Ferrari, maybe even separating them in the World Championship would be amazing. I mean, again, Max Verstappen obviously taking the chance to Charles Leclerc this year, really, really incredible. And then that's what they're hoping for next year. But just quickly, last thing for me on Alexander Albon. I mean, a great start to his Red Bull season, has all the backing off everyone. We've quickly turned to see how an amazing driver he is. Also, as well, I mean, as I've just said about I've said about Kimi Räikkönen and Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz. I love and Daniel Ricciardo, of course. I love the humble drivers, the ones who have a good attitude outside the car, and the ones who they're not serious. They don't expect the world. They don't expect everything given to them right now. And Alexander Albon doesn't. He respects where he is. He respects the team that he's with. He respects Verstappen. He probably 90% knows in the back of his mind that he's not going to beat him. Of course, he will want to, internally he will be thinking he can or he wants to, but he probably knows that he can't. He respects that. He respects the car, and then in turn, that has led him to have some great results. And just quickly, John, before we move on, I had some notes that I actually made for the Brazilian preview, which I'm going to read out again. So, Pierre Gasly, in the first 7 races for Red Bull, scored 36 points. Alexander Albon, in the first 7 races for Red Bull for him, scored 68 points. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. That's almost double. Alexander Albon has almost double Pierre Gasly. And at that point, when I did Brazil, he was on 63 points, Pierre Gasly. So again, Alexander Albon had beaten him in the first 7 races. And obviously, it's taken Pierre Gasly 20 races to get to 63 points. So there we go. I mean, the 7 races stand on their own. Incredible. Really great. And of course, my team, really, really impressed. Red Bull were a very likeable team. And as I've said, they're kind of on that stuck pedestal of we can challenge at the front and it'd be amazing. But where we are right now is good. And Verstappen, very highly rated for the future. But now on from a team with a great reputation and a great year to a team where, again, it's always going to be, this is our year, next year is going to be our year. And they've got so much of a high pedigree to, they should be higher up. And that, of course, is Ferrari's second place. Now, with Ferrari, you could say second place, the amount of points that they put on the board, 504 points, is good. But it's Ferrari. It's the team that should be at the top and should be challenging, closer for the World Championship. And this year with Sebastian Vettel and Charles Leclerc, it's been definitely it's been a season of two halves. But a season where, again, they might both have wins, and Charles Leclerc might be the more successful pole sitter this year. I think he's got 6 over Lewis's 4. But, again, it's not amazing from them. Probably better than 2018. But for Sebastian Vettel as well, it's taken him a year since his last, obviously, between wins in 2018 2019. So, on the whole, I wouldn't say Ferrari's year was great. Again, rolled into this year with Charles Leclerc. Now, if you are a Ferrari fan out there, I would say, in my opinion, the thing that would keep you on side the most, the thing that you'd be excited about the most, is to have Charles Leclerc in your team. Like, the promise, the prospect of this man is insane. I mean, in Formula 2, he was an unstoppable machine. In Alfa Romeo Sauber, he was great. 6th place in Russia, his best finish, and just the promise to replace Kimi and to be, a great standard driver. You just knew, looking at him, that he was going to be this, this Ferrari's new prodigy. Almost a Michael Schumacher, maybe. He was hyped a lot. Probably the same as Max Verstappen, and we'll have to see if it does pay off. So a good start to the season, I would say, with Ferrari showing promise. Charles Leclerc definitely having a good battle in Australia. But the real thing, of course, that came with Ferrari was Bahrain. Charles Leclerc gets pole position and becomes the youngest Ferrari pole sitter and the second youngest pole sitter in history, of course, behind his teammate Sebastian Vettel. Great lap by him, and now you can say Ferrari are back. Maurizio Riva Bene, the ex-team principal, always used to say on the radio, Ferrari is back, or it became kind of a thing to say, Ferrari are back, grazie ragazzi, we're back, the flag's flying in Maranello, we're back on top. And of course that's what it was looking. And we're only really theoretically 5 days in to the 2019 season. Of course, 3 in Australia and 2 in Bahrain, if that made sense. Sunday was a different kettle of fish. Of course, down to no one's problem. Of course, Ferrari didn't have 2 clean pit stops with Seb and Charles, but to no one's avail, of course, the Ferrari engine has a problem, and Charles Leclerc falls from 1st to 3rd position. A safety car stops Max, catching Charles at the end, and it becomes another Lewis Valtteri, and of course, Charles, as he gets on the podium. Disappointment for Ferrari, Lewis and Valtteri and Mercedes, give their commiserations to them, all the team in second place. Charles should have got the win, but of course, in the back of their mind, they're just thinking, glad he won. I'm glad we won. I'm glad he didn't. I'm glad that Ferrari engine cut out when it did. We wanted that. Again, the next race in China mixed in with team radio problems. Charles Leclerc and Sebastian Vettel are 2 number 1 drivers. This is where it changes from Red Bull to here. Nobody wanted to be the number 2 driver. Seb and Charles were going at it. China, team radio. Russia, team radio. Probably more examples as well, but they're the main 2. Where it was team radios, multi-21, and again, Formula 1 just doesn't need team problems. Of course, there's no radio bans like there were or what they were talked about in 2016, but just get away from those team orders. Let them race. Of course, no wins came in the start. Charles Leclerc got close on 2 occasions, Bahrain and Austria, which he claimed pole position on both occasions, but didn't work out. Lewis won in Bahrain, and as we've just said for Red Bull, of course, Max wins in Austria. So the second half of the season is where it changes, and this is where Ferrari come back as a tale of the second part of Ferrari. Charles Leclerc, brilliant weekend in Belgium, of course. Saturday was absolutely incredible. Monza, really strong. He's won, I think it's the first time since 9 years that Ferrari win. Incredible. Again, Singapore, amazing weekend, not just for Charles, but for both of them. Sebastian Vettel wins in Singapore, which breaks, I think it was about 400 odd days, can't work it out, but 400, as you can tell, is more than 1 year. So we actually got to Belgium, which was the first race back of the season, and we realised that Sebastian has actually taken over a year to win. And now, of course, when I was talking about those wins, I just skipped over one race, which of course is the Belgian Grand Prix, which I'm just going to talk about a little bit at the end. Really strong from them, really good. Of course, towards the end of the season, Brazil, team battles, they come together on the end of the race. Again, another collision with that, involves Sebastian Vettel, of course, isn't great. So Ferrari up and down. Yes, they have got wins. Yes, they have got pole positions. Of course, the second half of the season went better than the first. But yeah, ultimately up and down. The second place might be decent. Of course, Sebastian Vettel finishing in fifth place is definitely not decent. But yeah, progressive, would you say, Jordan? It's hard to say with Ferrari. I mean, any other team would be celebrating the second place, but when it comes to Ferrari, I'm like, I don't really know. So what is your feelings on how the season's gone for those two drivers and of course the team from Italy?
Certainly I would say a disappointing season in my opinion. Should be better, should be doing more with the facilities that they've got, with the drivers that they've got, with the staff that they've got. It's been a very, very poor, underachieving season, and I'll probably say the most underachieved team this season, which is a big statement because I know Williams were that bad, but even then I know Williams didn't really make any progress from 17 in 18, and then of course 18 in 19. So for me, Ferrari looked good in pre-season, and everyone was like, "Here we go, Ferrari, right? They're going to dominate this season because they look good in 17 and 18, but they never, quite got the finished product." So rock up to Australia, and they are nowhere, absolutely nowhere in terms of pace. What's happened all of a sudden? What's going on? Turns out that the chassis isn't as good as what it seems. Ferrari must have just solely focused on engine power because the engine was very quick. And that car in a straight line was like, I think it was like 0.2 of a second quicker than the Mercedes in a straight line. So, or even 0.3 in some places. So in terms of power, it was good, but aero, it was shocking, absolutely shocking. It looked like things that got back to winning ways, back to better ways, but they turned the 1-2 into a spin for Vettel, and of course commiserations for Charles for not winning the race.
Oh yes, the spin, of course. Sorry,
Yeah,
I forgot that. The spin,
absolutely.
massive. It's because he does it so many times.
Yeah, exactly. I was at this moment. I was like, "Oh, look, here we go, Vettel and Hamilton battling it again. Come on, like this is the year." And he spins. It's like, oh, really. Oh, anyways, but then like the Ferrari were just nowhere. But the thing is, though, right, in practice and qualifying, the car looked good. Oh, here we go, Ferrari. This is going to be their weekend for me. Pole position, no problem. Win, no problem. Yeah, qualifying would come. All right, decent job. Well done, Ferrari. Yeah, here we go. Good battle between the two Ferraris and the two Mercedes drivers. Great race day. Ferrari, where have you gone? Oh, it's just us, Mercedes. Hello. It was so annoying because like. And then it got to a point where it was so predictable. It was like, oh, here we go again. And of course, probably a big moment. Yeah, I mean, the Austrian Grand Prix was massive in terms of Charles not being able to win the Grand Prix. The second time he could have won a race from pole position, he didn't. Shame. But then, of course, the contact between Verstappen and Sebastian Vettel at Silverstone, coming into the club, quite embarrassing. Once again, just proving how bad of a season it's been for Sebastian Vettel. It's been so poor, and and certainly I want to reflect on in a bad way, and then fire up these retirement rumours even more so. But then the second half of the season looked a bit better. The win in Belgium, the win in Monza. Of course, what a brilliant moment. Whether you're a Ferrari fan or not, you like that moment. You loved that moment. If you were an F1 fan, you smiled on that day. If you didn't smile, you're not an F1 fan, in my opinion. But then Singapore for me was probably the biggest surprise of the season for me, or one of the biggest. I can't think of any surprises off the top of my head, but one of the biggest surprises of the season for me was Ferrari winning in Singapore, a track that relies on chassis more than power. And Ferrari rock up. They brought some minor upgrades, and they tortured the weekend. They did so well. Vettel claiming another win. Of course, Charles on pole. Wow, amazing. Here we go. Right, okay, Ferrari are definitely back. And then, of course, you rock up to Russia, and it was just god awful once again. Team orders come into play once again. Blah 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 blah. And then people start to get on. Get really annoyed with Charles, but. As a whole, very bad season from Ferrari. Should be battling with Mercedes on a consistent level. Just so annoying because I do want to see a championship battle in Formula One. It's been a while since we have had one. All right, we had Nico and Lewis, but with different teams. I want a very competitive nature, very competitive season up at the top in Formula One. Maybe throw in a bit of Red Bull just to add a bit of spice, as I like to say. But Ferrari and Mercedes should be the two teams going for it all season long. And Ferrari just, for whatever reason, just can't get it together. Like strategy wise, they're just appalling on some choices, like double stacking or leaving Charles out to dry and prioritising Seb, and now prioritising Charles over Seb. It was just weird how it was all being ran. Maybe 2020 could be a better year because I know there was a big big restructure in the hierarchy of Ferrari. Binotto coming in as team principal his first year, he will look back at it and go, it could have been a better year. Of course, it could have been, but I hope that 2020 could be a better year for Ferrari. Let's see. Let's just see how it goes. But for me, certainly one of the probably the most underachieving team in 2019.
Yeah, exactly. Not great from Ferrari, but there's one moment this season which it was, just highlights the maturity of Charles Leclerc. After all that he's been through as well, obviously with Jules Bianchi and obviously his father. If you don't know, his father passed away. And 48 hours later, he completed the Formula 2 race in Baku and he actually won. He went from last to first. And I've loved that about him. And again, this year just showed another maturity side to him. Of course, on that weekend that I've just said, where Charles got pole and obviously got his first win in Formula 1 in Belgium, his dear friend from France, Formula 2 driver Antoine Hubert, he passed away. He crashed at the top of Radion and passed away. Now, of course, a very upsetting thing. I mean, if you watch my Belgium Grand Prix preview, I was almost choking up talking about it. Very upsetting, very horrible. But on Charles Leclerc's side, Jordan, of course, he got pole position on the Saturday. But to race, not just knowing what had happened, but to race in lieu of a very close friend. I mean, if you saw all those photos of them growing up, they were in karting together, they went on holidays, and it was absolutely incredible. And to race, knowing what had happened to your friend a day later, in lieu and then winning, and the respect that he showed on the podium, obviously no celebrations, wearing the black armband and pointing to the sky in memory of his friend, and obviously showing the rest in peace Tonio sticker, obviously on the onboard cockpit cam, which was his nickname for Antoine, obviously growing up. That was just an incredible thing from Charles, wasn't it? The emotional kind of maturity that he has is incredible. It really outstands. It astonishes me, and to do that on the Sunday, I mean, that is one of the standout moments of this season, wasn't it? To win Belgium after what had happened. I mean, I found it was absolutely incredible. I mean, what did you think when you saw Charles had won, not just for the first time in his career, but obviously in lieu of obviously what had happened to his friend?
It must have been so difficult for Charles, not just Charles, but for a lot of people. Well, I think for all Formula One drivers, and of course those who knew him closely, it was just a dark. You could sense in the Belgian Grand Prix how still somber it was, because it was less than 24 hours, I think, or just about 24 hours. Of course, when the race started from the accident, so it was still quite raw, and of course for Charles, if you had a choice or whatever, like if you had a choice to like race and not a race, but points will still be awarded, you probably wouldn't have raced because of just how, like I said, how raw it was, and like you went through that emotion that trauma with Jules and of course his dad. So of course Charles had that on his mind. He still had to kind of blank it out in a way just to concentrate on the race, and in his words or his mind, to get the win for Antoine, and he did do just that. He came across the radio. I mean, I know it was so somber, but how he held it together was just, again, incredible, because you've just won your very first Formula One Grand Prix. That's like the next step in your motorsport single-seater career. Like, okay, it's like win a championship in the lower ranks, then make it to Formula, or maybe test for Formula One, drive a Formula One car, test a Formula One car, drive in Formula One, score your first points, score your first podium, then score your first win. And he just kind of went, quite calmly, just, okay, guys, thank you very much, but this is dedicated to Antoine. Got out of the cockpit, pointed towards the sky, and of course did the same thing on the podium. It was just an absolutely incredible thing to see, and so powerful. And even still, it is still quite difficult to talk about even today, because it's still, how can things like this happen in a such a safe environment like the world of Formula One, or or Formula Two or Formula Three, or whatever. Formula, motorsport is such these days a safe sport, but things like this just kind of prove the dangers. And of course, Antoine will always be in our thoughts, at whatever moment in Formula One, and of course Charles will always be, if he does win a championship one day, I'm pretty sure he will dedicate that towards Antoine, of course his dad and Jules as well. But really strong from Charles. Fully respect that, and of course I respect the other drivers who, of course, raced alongside Hubert, who knew him well. Pierre Gasly was also one of those drivers. I remember he was again brave for race, and of course everybody else who did. So yeah, pretty sad on those terms. So here we are, the final team to talk about, which is of course your 2019 Constructors and Drivers World Championship for a 6th time in a row. Like we've said before, it's a record and all that, blah 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 blah. So of course Mercedes 2019 season was an absolutely superb one, wasn't it? A totally dominant performance, especially at the very start of the season. 5 1-2s in a row and 8 consecutive wins in the sport, up from Australia all the way up to France. Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas, of course, taking a handful. Well, Lewis Hamilton taking the majority of those wins, and Valtteri Bottas taking the wins in Australia and in Baku. The 5-1-2s was a joint record. Was a new record set by a team's more successful start to a Formula One season. I think Williams had that record in '92, and of course Mercedes took actually might have been McLaren in '98. In '88, I'm not too sure, but nevertheless, still a new record held again by Mercedes. Another one added to their collection. Monaco, of course, rolled round. Again, we'll talk about that just a little bit after we've reviewed the season. But Mercedes really all season long never put a foot wrong right there, didn't it? Apart from Germany, of course, which again we'll talk about in a bit. But overall, I think there was just no stopping Mercedes. Everyone keeps saying, "Oh, is this the year that Mercedes get knocked off their perch?" Ferrari, surely this is going to be the year that they kick them off the top. And they didn't. Mercedes are just as strong as ever. They've got a really good bonding unit. They've got such a good teamwork ethic over there in Brackley and, of course, in Brixworth. And Valtteri Bottas, coming into the season, I'll start with him, was under pressure already from the start, because 2018 was a poor year, like we've already said. Very, very poor year from Valtteri Bottas. Win this year, all right, Mercedes still won the Constructors, but still not good enough on Bottas's terms. So you had to get a win very early on, at least first 4 races, and he got 2 in the first 4 races. And Bottas 2.0, to whom it may concern, and all that, a porridge, whatever. He got 2 wins. It was brilliant. He slipped away in a way. Hamilton taking over for a bit. Verstappen, of course, came into the fold. Then Ferrari found their form after the half-term break. And at this point, Bottas's future was still in doubt. Was Ocon going to be replacing Bottas? It was going to be one of those 2 drivers. And of course, the weekend where Toto announced that they are assessing Bottas's performances on the last 2 races, which was Germany and Hungary, and he got probably the 2 worst results he could possibly get. And of course, that big crash in Germany wouldn't have helped a bit. Found his form eventually. Probably his standout performance would be Japan, much quicker than Lewis Hamilton. Of course, pole position, race win, and then same again in the USA. Pole position, race win. Brilliant year from Bottas. Second in the championship. Best in Formula One. 4 wins, I think, in Formula One. Oh yeah, 4 wins. Best in Formula One. So certainly a good progressive year. He knows where he went wrong. He knows that there is more to do, because there was still a big gap between him and Hamilton. I think there was like 70 odd points between the 2 drivers, which in teammates terms and in championship battling, it is a big gap. And Bottas has said already that he knows what to do for 2020, or he's going to do something different in 2020 to try and beat Lewis Hamilton. So I can't wait to see what this is going to be. But Lewis Hamilton, a solid season, 6th World Drivers' Championship title. I mean, 1 away from Schumacher. Is he going to match it? Probably, but let's not guess just yet. It's just been solid all year. 11 wins, joint record, joint personal best in Lewis Hamilton's career, and just proving that despite Lewis Hamilton getting older, he isn't getting any slower. He's just as good as what he was, back in when he started off in Mercedes in 14 and 15, and even at the start of his career back in '07 and '08, he's still just as good as what he was then. So Lyle, Mercedes, it was. And there's not much that we can say apart from, of course, what went wrong in Germany. But other than that, it was ion perfect, wasn't it? From the Silver Arrows, and just again another dominant season by Mercedes. I mean, what else can we say?
What else can you say? Yeah, I mean, how about that? Of course,
You can't.
it was absolutely incredible. Really, really great to start of the season. Best start. Some of their absolutely incredible wins. I mean, it wasn't just Hamilton winning, which is what we've been accustomed to seeing. It's also been, I was going to say Rosberg, Jordan. I mean Bottas. I was about to say Rosberg. I don't know why. Bottas. It's Bottas
Oh
as well.
no, let's not start this.
Bottas was winning. Australia. Azerbaijan. Incredible. Really, really great. Challenging Lewis Hamilton till the end. Lewis Hamilton, absolutely incredible. Winning the sixth time. Still we rise. It was really great. But just when you mentioned there quickly about the USA, about when Lewis won the World Championship, the thing that I liked about Bottas was that, so Lewis could have won it in Mexico, if you remember. Lewis had to, so I've forgotten the permutation now, but it was I think it was 14 points, I think it was. Lewis had to, Lewis had to outscore. All he needed was 14 points, and then he would have won it. Valtteri Bottas cut that so that wouldn't happen in Mexico. Then it went to the USA, where it was most likely going to happen. But it had to be where if Valtteri had to win the race, and Lewis had to come, I've forgotten it now, but Valtteri had to win, and winning was the only thing that Valtteri could have done, the best thing, and it just delayed Lewis getting it. Valtteri showed that he wasn't a teammate like in 2018 when it was Valtteri James, or he could have been pushed around. Valtteri was there to challenge Lewis Hamilton to get second place, to get to the point where he can say, right, okay, listen, mate, I know you are, getting on a bit, but you're here in Mercedes, and I know you were all this successful, but if you stick around for a few more seasons, I'm coming for you. As I get older, I will get wins next year, and I will become a stronger Bottas. I'll become Bottas 3.0, 4.0. I will eat so much porridge that I will be able to, kick you out of this seat eventually. And that's what I've loved about Bottas. I mean, for me, Bottas has been he's been a very outstanding driver in Mercedes. In taking into account Hamilton's form, which is just, being absolutely stellar. I mean, obviously, one of the records that Lewis holds is 100% winning record in his career. He's won since 2007 since now. He's won at least once every single season. Obviously, he's lost 2013 with one win, but still, he's won every single year. So Hamilton, of course, in his amazing form, but Bottas, remember, had a terrible 2018. So to go from 2018 to 2019 like he has been absolutely sensational for Bottas, and I've really loved what I've seen. The team has been incredible as well, even outside the car. I mean, Toto Wolff and all of the people behind, obviously Bono, the race engineer for Lewis Hamilton, James Allison, they have changed the team for the better. Well, actually, no, they haven't changed the team. They've just kept the progression going. I mean, Toto Wolff is an amazing guy, absolutely incredible, really an icon, almost an icon now in global sport, not just in Formula 1. He's a global sport icon. An amazing man. You almost put him in the same league as Jose Mourinho, for example, even though, not a big Jose fan. I mean, yeah, just absolutely incredible team, really great. Love what they're doing. Now they've won the 6th, they're on par with Ferrari as the most successful constructor. So again, going for 7 themselves. Lewis going for 7 next year. And Jordan, I mean, I'm not going to talk about Germany that much because I'm problem. And rainy races do conjure up just unpredictability. We've had races for example, Canada 2011, Brazil 2012 that have thrown in curveballs that not even me or you could fathom. And I know that Brazil wasn't a rainy race, but again, even that, that was just unimaginable problems. We couldn't see those kind of things happening again, and of course Gasly battling Lewis Hamilton to the line, and that was kind of an indication that Lewis had finally lost a battle, and Mercedes can be beaten. Do you get what I mean? It was like picking up water with a fork. It was just dripping through, and finally they've something's fallen off that fork. Mercedes can be beaten, but I mean, I know that might only be a little thing, but I mean, absolutely incredible by Mercedes, and that is literally all to say. But I mean, they've had just a sensational season, and if anyone's ever going to doubt why they won 6 for Lewis and 6 for the team, I mean, I show them this year. And like we said yesterday, it might not be the best season of the decade, but I mean, it could be one of. And in Mercedes terms, they probably are going to put this as the best season of the decade because, of course, they're ending the decade as one of the most successful teams in Formula One, obviously in terms of in a row, and also creeping up there on the all-time list. I mean, just absolutely amazing, Jordan. And congratulations to Lewis, fully deserved. He might get hate, and he might get oh, he's just in the best car, but Bottas couldn't do it. Lewis has defied all odds, battled the Mercedes, the Ferrari, and Max, and showed that he is a very strong driver, and he's capable of going for 91 and 7, and he's on the verge of it, and it's so like. I can't believe it. I cannot believe we're sitting here and thinking that guy from Stevenage, who we saw in 2007, is now. Well, actually, we went. So just a random thing, but I know we started school when he won his championship in 2008. When I heard about him, I was like, young guy. I'm gonna. He's a British guy. I'm gonna support him. And obviously Jordan, joined the Lewis fans. He obviously stayed with McLaren when he went to Mercedes, and look at where Lewis is now. Fully deserves it. He may be getting old. I think he's 35 now, 34, but certainly got a few years left in the tank. And I'm very excited to see what he can do. Lewis getting 7 next year. I mean, well, we'll have to wait and see, will we? Of course, Monaco was also a win for Mercedes, obviously in lieu of Niki Lauda, the non-executive chairman of Mercedes, who did pass away that weekend. Absolutely incredible. The red halo was there to obviously remember the man. And the red cap is there in respect. Amazing tribute from them this year. And obviously, Nicky would have loved to see Mercedes where they are right now. Obviously, double sixes for them going for 7. Anyways, guys, 2 episodes, about 3 hours, I think, in length. So thank you very much for watching all of this. We hope that you are sticking around. 2019, guys. I mean, it might not be the race of the decade, season of the decade, but definitely one of them. Absolutely sensational. We hope you've enjoyed it. We hope you've enjoyed listening to us as well. Thank you very much for watching. Obviously, we've got some great videos coming up in the next few weeks before obviously rounding off the decade, including our F1 Debate Show Awards on Christmas Eve. Thank you very much for watching. Obviously, make sure to leave us a like and a comment in the subscription box about everything. Sorry, in the comment box about everything we've said in this episode. Round the season off for you guys. I don't think there's a limit on how much you can write on YouTube. Thank you very much for watching today. If you are new, please like and subscribe to our channel for more content in the next few weeks. And until next time, guys, we will see you later.
See you later, guys.